Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Arslan Jazib and today I will demonstrate how to debug the fetch sequence of a Wombat 1 machine using the debug mode. First step would be to open Wombat 1 by opening CPU sim. After that you will have an interface like this in front of you. Before we go through the debugging of the fetch sequence, I'll briefly explain what is fetch sequence. So whenever you write a program, the loader loads the address of the first instructions in the program counter register, which is basically represented by PC here. This allows our CPU to fetch an instruction from RAM to perform some sort of operation on it. This procedure as a whole is termed as fetch sequence of a machine. Fetch sequence has multiple micro instructions, but each machine has only one fetch sequence. So to understand how to debug fetch sequence, we'll continue. First of all, click on execute. After that, click on the debug mode option. Now, as you can see, there are multiple buttons here such as go, step by instruction, step by micro instructions, and fetch sequence table. Now, since fetch sequence has many micro instructions and we have to go through each micro instruction to clearly understand its working, we'll press on step by micro. But whenever you want to debug instructions like read, jump, with skipping the micro instructions, you can choose the step by instruction option. Now when I press step by micro, our MAR is still 0, which basically means that the address of the first instruction is 0. After that, we'll access our address of the RAM. Now, as you can see in the buffer, we have a decimal value which is basically our instruction. Now we'll place this instruction in the instruction register, which basically is used for execution process, which is not discussed here. When we have our instruction in the instruction register, we are done with the fetch sequence. Now we have fetched the instruction from the address in our RAM. Now we have to increment our program counter to execute or to basically to fetch the next instruction. So when we press step by micro again, you'll clearly see that now our program counter is 2. So our Wombat 1 machine basically has the word size of 2 bytes. So basically our Wombat machine has this 2 byte spacing between each word. You start with 0, then you go to 2, after that 4, then 6, and so on. Now the decode option here, decode micro instruction here, is basically decoding the opcode which tells the CPU it has to read, it has to jump, it has to add. After completing this, our whole fetch sequence is completed. Now we have fetched our CPU has fetched the instruction. Now it will perform the micro operations of that instructions. For example, our first instruction was read. Now it will perform the micro operations of the read instruction. Now when I have pressed step by micro, basically it read basically asks from for asked value from ask any integer from input any integer from us is basically input 10. After inputting 10, we have the 10 in our accumulator. Now when we step by micro again, we are at the jump and instruction. Now the fetch sequence will again be repeated, but this time note that our program counter was incremented to 2. Now our program counter is at 2. So when I'll again perform the same procedure as above, you will clearly see that now currently our program counter is incremented to 4, and we have the different instructions in our IR. So this is how basically a fetch sequence works for a Wombat 1 machine.